Fire and medical, location of your emergency.
I do remember her saying, well, I'm going to jump in the shower, and that's about the last thing I remember.
The last thing I remember was, this always gets me, the last thing I remember was waving to my wife.
The death is everywhere. You got to watch out so you don't get between the death and the ground, and that's when things go bad.
I get out, pay for the gas, start pumping it, and that's it.
It had been a normal day. If she hadn't been home early to take care of grandkids, I wouldn't be here today.
I just hadn't got off work, and so was on my trike, had been out riding about 10 minutes, getting ready to cross a road in our neighborhood.
Wasn't any pain at all. I didn't have any tightness in my chest, nothing. I was just perspiring a little bit.
Ian and TJ both remember the most irregular respirations that they'd ever seen in a patient.
We had our moves down, we had everything set up. So we shifted to the next pole, and that's pretty much where my memory ends on it. But I had an electrical contact that put my heart into, I guess it put it into defib where it wasn't pumping right.
Well, the next thing I recall now, and this is all looking back, was waking up in a hospital, in a bed, surrounded by my wife and 3 or 4 of my good friends and some of my co-workers.
Where am I and what am I doing here? And she said, you had a heart attack. And I said, a heart attack? You know, no way.
I remember waking up in the hospital and wanting to see my hands and my feet and make sure I had them.
First recollection I have is Sunday. There's video of me awake talking on Friday and Saturday, but I don't remember anything until Sunday. And
I had a partial memory of waking up in the hospital and seeing my son-in-law there, and I was talking with him, and he said he's going to spend the night. And I looked at the nurse, I said, he needs a pillow and a blanket. Then the lights go off again.
All right, you need to pump hard and fast, and you need to count with me, okay? All right, start pumping. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
And he said, put your hand between the nipples and just keep pushing and try to do it as often as you can. And help's on the way, so you just keep doing this.
I could hear her in the background asking me if things were okay, were we doing all right, keep pushing, you know, things like that. I could hear that in the background, but I was mainly concentrating on the CPR I was trying to give him.
I know Ian went into the gas station and asked him for an AED. They did not have one. Pretty rural out there.
She gave me compressions and breaths. And she did that until her husband got 911 to send out the EMT crews, and they responded.
He said, you realize, of course, that what you did probably saved his life. I'm like, oh.
During that time, they're noticing things aren't getting any better, so they go ahead and check me for a pulse again and realize that I'm pulseless. At that time, they go ahead and begin chest compressions. TJ's on the phone again with Phoenix Dispatch, realizing that I'm a full cardiac arrest at this point, and Ian's doing the chest compressions.
If I happened on a situation where someone was in distress, I wouldn't hesitate now to do what I did then. I would feel, I think, pretty confident to do the same thing.
The helicopter got there. I'd been loaded in an ambulance at that time. They get in, and little did they know that they were responding to me. The crew members that were on the helicopter, this helicopter, the one standing behind me, was my normal crew. It was the 2 guys I normally work with.
That's when we actually had a few words that said, man, something smells terrible. And probably right in that same instant is when Mike said, "I've got a man down."
I think all in all, it was probably about a minute and a half from when the accident happened to when we had the AED on him and it was analyzing him.
The first analysis on the machine was to do CPR. So I was the closest person to him, so I started doing the chest compressions and that. And we ran through one course of CPR, the chest compressions and everything. And then the machine reevaluates. It said shock him again. Jake was sitting on the machine and you know, pushed the button. He pushed the button, and then once the shock was administered, you know, he bounced pretty good, and then just gasped and took a really deep breath at that time, and I don't think any of us thought he was out of the woods yet, but I'm sure everybody was relieved that we had some progress, and he stood a good chance of going home to his family.
We got a call for an electrocution. The initial report was also that he was in cardiac arrest. So my feelings right off the bat were that probably wasn't a survivable event. His crew in the AED absolutely saved his life. There's no doubt in my mind. The machines are automatic. You put it on somebody, if it says they're in cardiac arrest and suggests a shock, they are in cardiac arrest. So he would have died had they not been carrying that device with them that day, and if they weren't trained to know how to use it.
Where that company that he worked for had defibrillators, and the guy that was working with him was knowledgeable and knew how to work the defibrillator. That's really what saved his life. That he was able to do that. There's the hero. And then the fire department that got up there and took care of his airway, and the way they were able to relay information to us so we were prepared, and that they had a good landing zone because it was a very remote area. And then again, without a helicopter, it would have even taken longer to get him out of there because he was in such a remote place. So it was just everybody together as a team made that happen.
I heard the wife was doing CPR already, and that it was a witnessed arrest, so I figured typically when we get calls like that it's more of a chance of survival than most of the cardiac arrests we get are already down for half hour or found down in bed, found down the next day, stuff like that. And it was exciting to have the opportunity to actually be en route to something like that, something where there's a chance to save somebody's life.
Calling 911 immediately, getting somebody on CPR early is critical, and then getting him to the hospital as fast as we can. So all that stuff worked out perfect in this instance.
And it's very important, especially for somebody to come and walk out of the hospital like Mr. Paxton has, to have really early detection and really early on CPR. So when we get there, we're already ahead of the game instead of being behind it.
Getting that blood flowing through the body and basically doing CPR, chest compressions, and pumping the heart and keeping him alive and basically getting oxygenated blood to his body, even though he is not breathing at that time, is what helps save them in instances like this. So bystander CPR is very important, and it saved his life.
The whole system itself working perfectly that day, we were able to give him back to his family.
What we do, you don't often see the end result like this, and it's a really, really good feeling to see Mr. Paxton walking around and talking, and that's what we do this for. It's great.
Knowing that he can go home, especially when they came to the administrative building with their family, and because I have kids, Dave has kids, or Cap, you know, it just, that's what, to me, what it's about. To see the kids say, oh, I can go home with my dad, or the wife, you know, I got my husband. That, to me, is what it's about.
It was more what our friends said. "Ah, your old lady saved your life." I said, "Yeah, she sure did." But yeah, you know, it wasn't anything that she bragged about or anything like that. But I was well aware that she saved my bacon. You know. the new procedures, cardiac procedures, especially in the hospital, and the changes in CPR has saved a lot of people's lives. And hopefully what you guys are doing and so on will spread throughout the country and save a lot more.
I have nothing to teach anybody to tell them how to survive it, except to encourage everyone else around all of their friends and their family members to be knowledgeable of the very simple steps they can take to help someone survive an event like that until professional help arrives. A lot of things were in place for me to be able to sit here and talk to you today, and to still be here to be a husband and be a father and be a grandfather and a friend.
Basically, I was just happy. I was gonna get to see my kids. I was gonna get to, I was gonna get to go home to my wife at some point. It wasn't gonna be the end of the world, and it could have been. And I think that was what I thought about more than the little things. I just thought about, wow, what if I didn't get to watch Logan grow up? You can say thank you 100 times, and it's never going to be enough.
It's not about me. It's about my daughters having their father come home and hug them and see them and go to events and go to baseball games or watch them do sports and still having me in their life. That's the thing I'm most thankful for. And because of everybody doing their job and doing the right thing, I'm there for them.